Welcome back to another episode of Better Than I Found It, the podcast all things college golf. You're listening to Mike McGraw, the men's golf coach at Baylor University. Today's guest on Better Than I Found It is Scout McNealy, a former Baylor Bear golfer and current PGA Tour caddy for his brother Maverick McNealy. If you've been paying close attention or even casual attention to professional golf over the last 4 or 5 months, you've seen the surge in Maverick's results in his competitions. He's played very, very well. A victory late in the fall in the RSM Classic and last week's runner-up finish in the Genesis with a final round 64 at Torrey Pines. On the bag this entire time has been Scout. Scout has been on the bag, carrying the bag every week from Maverick. And today, Scout sits down with me and we talk about how that has been for him, how it actually came about to begin with. What started out as maybe I'll caddy the fall season has turned into something a little more permanent. Scout talks about the trust that Maverick showed in him, the respect, the brotherly love, and also the professional relationship that the two have. Scout talks about keeping it light, but he also knows when to be professional. So I feel like this is a really, really great podcast interview. Scout, who played for me, graduated in May of 2022, was a podcast guest his senior year, and he comes back today with this talk and this discussion and interview about being on the bag for Maverick McNealy. I hope you enjoy. Okay, Better Than I Found It listeners, please welcome a former player of mine, great friend of mine, awesome Baylor Bear, Scout McNealy, back to the podcast for the second time. Scout, great to have you on today.
Thanks for having me on, Coach. Surprised you're doing this again after the last one.
Well, no, you did fine in the last one, but it's ironic that I'm actually doing this from your home in Palm Springs, your family home in Palm Springs, where you've been our host to our team for 3 years, I think it is now.
Yep, this is the third year of it.
Yeah, that's great. We're out here playing in the Prestige golf tournament, which is a great college golf tournament, but it's even greater for my guys because they get to stay in this house that's kind of a lot of fun to be at, and you guys, you and your parents have been such great hosts for us for the last 3 years. So I want to tell you how much we appreciate that. But also, I want to talk about your life in the last year has changed a lot. You went from actually being, well, what were you doing? What was your official title? After you graduated in the spring of 22, you did some things and then you got into a business. What was that business like?
Yeah, I did about a year and a half of house flipping out in northern Nevada, in the Lake Tahoe area. So just buying, renovating, and selling houses.
Yeah, I guess the market was pretty good out there for just about everything, but certainly good for flipping houses, right?
Yeah, it was pretty good. Enjoyed it. Learned a lot.
I bet you did. And then your older brother Maverick, who's been playing the PGA Tour a while, decided, I need a good caddy. I need a really good caddy. How did that come about? I don't think I've ever asked you that.
I never pressed Maverick about caddying because I just didn't want to put that idea in his head, and I kind of want to have a little bit of respect for him and his professional life. But I always told some people that no matter what I'm doing, if he gives me the call to carry the bag, I'll drop whatever I'm doing. And I was doing a little bit of soul searching last summer, and he, mentioned to me that there was a possibility if I want to, I could caddy for a couple events in the fall. And I told him, I said, well, I'll do the whole fall with you. And so I kind of backed him into a corner that way.
Was this before the Open Championship? After what part of the summer was it?
This was right before the Open Championship. Okay. Yep.
Did you go over there with that?
I did not. I started at the Wyndham, which was in August, the last one before the playoffs.
Yeah, that's gotta be. I mean, you said you'd drop anything, but you didn't drop the hint. I mean, how did he come about? It's like I think I need a Scout on the bag.
He said he'd always kind of wanted to do it himself. He always wanted to, do a couple weeks with me, and I always thought maybe I would do a fill-in once or twice here and there, and but then we both kind of knew in our heads, I guess he wanted me on the bag for the fall. I totally wanted to do it, so then we just of went from there.
So new career.
New career. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't surprise me when I can look back on your days at Baylor when you were injured. You had a shoulder injury for pretty much most of your time at Baylor, but I always remember you giving short game lessons to our guys, and I would just stand in amazement at how one, they respected your opinion, but that you did have an absolutely syrupy smooth putting stroke. It was amazing. But you enjoyed teaching, apparently, and you could help our guys, and I think they had a lot of respect for what you said. Do you think any of that kind of helped them? You'd already talked to players before. It would be easier to talk to Maverick about how to play.
Yeah, I guess I feel like I'd always been around golf at a high level. I never really myself performed quite to that level, but I was quite familiar with the game. And Mav and I had always done a lot of talking about putting. We would bounce ideas off each other. He's, possibly the best putter in the world, or he was last week. And
well, he's at least one of the better putters.
Exactly.
I mean, people know that.
Yeah. And so we always would bounce ideas off each other that way. And so it's kind of fun to get to do it a little bit more on a day-to-day basis where I'm actually seeing it in person.
Yeah, that's great. So anyway, just after the Open Championship, you started your first tournament was Wyndham. How did you do there?
I think he got T42 or something like that. Yeah.
And then you just decided to continue to go all the way through the fall. Talk about that transition. Let's take us all the way up to the RSM, which was a pretty big event. But go ahead.
Yeah, so I told them that I was just going to do the whole fall. So we were planning on doing 7 events after the playoffs. We did Wyndham and then FedEx St. Jude. Missed out by 1 shot to get into the BMW, which was pretty tough to swallow with everything top 50. Sort of had in store. He made an incredible run that Sunday. Shot 64, missed a 70-footer for birdie just over the edge on the last hole.
Well, for some of my listeners that don't know, being in the top 50 will get you a lot of things. It gets you in signature events. It gets you in majors. It gets you in a ton of things. Right?
Correct. Yeah. So basically getting top 50 sets you up for the next year pretty well. And then, so the first 2 events in the fall were both missed cuts. And I was going, oh boy, I guess this is going to be a short career. And then he started to play some really good golf and got 16th and at the Shriners, and probably what was the worst draw on the PGA Tour that year. Our draw was averaging 3.76 shots more than the other.
Oh wow!
Just with how the wind was forecasted.
What you're talking about, the draw of Thursday and Friday draw?
Yeah, the late, because we were late early, and the guys who went early late got it a lot better. And then our last 3 events, we went to Cabo, where was probably the worst caddy experience of my life. I got Montezuma's revenge.
Oh,
and I did not do a lot of caddying that week. I just tried to get to his ball before he pulled the trigger. And then we went to Bermuda. And then the last one was RSM where he, got his first win. So that was pretty fun to be there for that.
Going into the RSM, was there a feeling he could win? Was he playing that well? You thought that might happen?
He was playing great going into that. Got 6th in Cabo, 17th in Bermuda, but we kind of looked at RSM. He's never played well there. His best finish was 60th, a couple missed cuts, and we were talking about it all fall as this is going to be a skill development week for you because you're not a good putter on Bermuda. There's a lot of stuff in this golf course that's just not set up for your game. So let's just go out there and try to get better at this style of golf that has never been great for you in your career, because he's always in the past had only played well on West Coast events, on POA and some of the northern events.
North.
Exactly. So we did not expect to win that one. But then the first round, he goes out and shot 62 when I think there was 1 6 under, and then the next best score was 5 under on the Seaside course at Sea Island. And that kind of, we were immediately leading, and then other than being 1 back going into Saturday, it was other than that, it was a wire to wire win. So there really weren't any expectations going into that event, but after after that first round, I went, oh my gosh, like he could actually win this thing. So
yeah, that's a pretty amazing experience. I mean, so you said you were just going to go through the end of the fall.
mm-hmm.
You guys win at RSM. It's kind of maybe change your mind, like maybe I'm going to do this a little while longer.
Yeah, I'd actually committed to him in Cabo. So 2 weeks prior, before we started that week, I told him, hey, I'll go ahead and do next year with you, because it'd been pretty fun and I kind of wanted to keep going. He'd offered me the job when we were in Japan for the Zozo, and then he won, and I said, yeah, I'm definitely not giving someone else the bag so they can go do Maui and then go to Augusta. I was like, no, I'm carrying the bag those weeks. So
well, talk about the dynamic before we're going to get into what just happened this past week, but talk about the dynamic. It's your brother. He used to beat on you when you were a little kid. He was, I'm sure he was a great big brother, but I'm sure there was a lot of competition. And Dakota and Colt in between you and Maverick, tons of, you were always a little baby of the group. Talk about the dynamic of traveling with this brother you've looked up to your whole life.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I think everyone on tour is like, so are you guys sharing rooms on the road? But no, his wife's with him, so I'm definitely not. So she's been traveling with them, and they'll usually go do their own thing, and I'll do mine, because it's kind of a weird bit of a weird dynamic where I don't want him to be so sick of me by the end of the week that he just doesn't want to talk to me when we're on the golf course. So we definitely give each other a little bit of space. And I think it's healthy that way, but it's been super fun, because there are other weeks where we'll go out and do fun dinners. Like we went into Tokyo when we were in Japan, and just fun stuff like that too.
When people that don't know Maverick very well, I think he's a pretty straight-laced, he's like a very serious guy all the time. But I've seen photos of him with you, and the family photos, where he's kind of been kind of goofy, having a good time. I don't think people see that side of him. And I do think he has a different personality than you do. I think you guys are different. But am I right about that?
Yeah, he definitely is. He's usually on, he can be pretty serious, but there definitely is a goofier side of him. I definitely try to bring that out of him, because he can take his job very seriously, as he should, but sometimes it's a little bit too serious for his own good. So I'd say probably 80% of my responsibility as a caddy is just to keep him laughing and kind of be a scapegoat, so he's someone to laugh at while we're out there. You
got some really good press at RSM because you said something to him in a very important pressure-packed moment of that tournament. Are you at liberty to say what you told him?
I don't know if you want to publish this podcast, Coach. So if you're going to publish this one, maybe we won't.
Okay. But you did say something that got him to laughing and took the pressure off, correct?
Yeah. And that's just what I try to do. Just keep him smiling, because when we grew up playing golf, we were always joking, laughing, and having fun. So I just try to keep as much of that as possible while we're out there.
Yeah, well, you got some good press on that note. But I would say this, caddies have changed a lot. When I was your age, caddies just kind of roamed the country and kind of stayed six to a room, and they drank heavily and they partied, and they didn't really think about the future. They weren't professionals. Caddies are absolutely professional nowadays, and I'm certain you've gotten to know some of them ones. I'm going to ask you about some of them, but would you consider yourself a professional right now?
I guess I would. I definitely take the job very seriously in terms of what I need to do prep wise, what I need to do with analysis, and when it's time to clock in for a golf shot, I would say I'm professional. And the other 4.5 out of the 5 hours that you're out there, when you're not doing that, I'm incredibly unprofessional. But I feel like that's mostly kind of the calling for my job.
Well, I think it wouldn't be authentic if you were a completely different person from Maverick. And he knows who you are. And when he hired you, he knew who you were. He knew your personality. He knew your history. He knew everything about you. You wouldn't be authentic. It wouldn't be real if you weren't your own self.
Yeah, exactly. Like I was talking to Mav, and I said, hey, so, when we're in contention to win our first golf tournament, like, do you want me to be serious or do you want me to be myself? He goes, no, don't be serious. So I said, okay, cool. Well, I don't have to be too fake around you now.
But it did work. It did work the first time for sure. So you guys win at RSM. And that takes you, how many tournaments did you caddy between that tournament and winning in San Diego this past week?
Or so we got second this week.
I'm sorry.
In San Diego.
I'm sorry.
So you're good. So this was the sixth event of the calendar year for us. So we did tournament champions or formerly tournament champions at Kapalua, Sony Open in Honolulu, and then we took a week off and played 4 straight, which was Farmers at Torrey, Pebble Beach, Phoenix Open, and then back to Torrey for the Genesis.
Yeah. So that was a pretty good stretch nonetheless, and you had Christmas in between in there. But so talk about this past week. I mean, he didn't win. No, he finished runner-up. Ludwig Oberg just did some amazing things toward the end, but I don't think Maverick lost this golf tournament. I think somebody else just won it. It was pretty amazing final round. Talk about that final round and talk about barely making the cut too.
Yeah, it was kind of a crazy week. So we were the second to last off of hole 10 on Thursday, and there was a huge storm coming in. And by the time we got to like our 10th hole, rain just started coming down sideways and hard out of the south. So basically we had to work our way through more holes of rain than anyone but the group behind us and into the wind because we started on that side. So Mav that round went 34 on the back 9, 41 on the front 9, which was our second 9.
Wow.
For 3 over. The best of the guys who teed off on that 9, the second half of the wave, no one beat 73. So 73 was the low score. So it was just playing incredibly hard. And then Friday was kind of a pretty stale day. And then, was 2 over on the day. So 5 over overall, made an eagle on 13 and then birdied his last 3 holes and made the cut. He was 1 or 2 outside the cut on Friday, on the back 9. So we were just at that point, just happy to have a weekend tee time.
Yeah, so you make the cut on the number, or
he made it. I forget if it was by 1 or 2.
Okay, but he had to make 3 late birdies.
Yeah. The eagle. I think the eagle put us right inside the cut line. Then he made a bogey, and then he made 3 birdies. So we were good there.
Well, one thing I noticed before we get to the final round, that looked like U.S. Open rough. I mean, I know the greens were more receptive than a U.S. Open would be, but that rough was very tough.
It was bad. There was I don't know if it was Saturday. I think it was Saturday. There were 3 different times where the spotter would put the little white flag down in the rough, and my feet were 4 feet from the flag, this little flag, and I would look at the spotter and say, "Where's the golf ball?" I just had no idea where the golf ball was, and I didn't want to step on it.
So those kind of lies, literally, there's no skill. You're just hacking it out as hard as you can.
You're taking a gap wedge and just hitting down as hard as you can and just trying to splash out and hopefully hit it in the fairway, hit a 9-iron on the green, and try to make a putt.
I know the greens were receptive. I mean, I know they weren't like a firm U.S. Open type greens, but still the scores were ridiculously low for that much rough, I thought.
Yeah, they definitely were. Torrey's an interesting test because if you miss, you want to miss big. If you miss the fairway by 5 yards out there, you're buried in the rough or getting a weird lie. Some of those bunkers had some really interesting lies. But if you blow it over the rope line, you're all of a sudden in an area that's matted down, and you're basically looking at birdie.
Well, we're going to talk about this later, but like on 15 in the 2008 U.S. Open, Tiger Woods, he didn't like that tee shot, but he always overcut it into where the gallery was walking, and he was playable every single round. I never forget that. He didn't even come close to the fairway, and people thought he was hitting terrible shots. He kind of, on purpose, he didn't want to go left because that was jail.
Left's dead, yeah.
Left's dead, and he just hit it out there. And I look back on that, and I think this week would have been very similar, and we'll talk about it on 17 is where I want to talk about it. But so you obviously had really tough lies. You're going into the final round. How many did you trail by going into the final round?
We were 5 back. The lead was at 8. We were at 3 in a 5-way tie for 8th, I think.
Okay.
So it was. I was looking at that day going, if we for a blackout shoot 7 and under and get the 10 under, that's going to be hard to beat. And if you told me at the beginning of the day 10 under to finish, I would have been totally happy with that. And then obviously got one more than that and still didn't get it done. But
Well, we were playing a practice round, our second practice round for this term, the Prestige, and one of the guys had his phone and said, "Hey, Mavericks, let's get home." And we thought it would be kind of cool to watch the last 9 holes in Mavericks' home, the house. And so we were watching it on the TV, and it was just like 9 under through 13 holes is absolutely unthinkable. I don't know how it can be done.
I mean, you can do that at the John Deere Classic. It's impressive. You do that at Torrey Pines. It's just absurd because it's not out there.
How many feet of putts did he make in those 13 holes? Do you know? I don't even know.
I do not. It was 40-footer. Some of the big ones were a 40-footer on 1, 12-footer on 3. Made like an 8-footer on 9, 10-footer on 10, 30, about a 25-footer on 11. And then he tapped in on 13. So he definitely had it going with the flat stick.
Yeah. So we're watching it, and he's got it to 12. I think 14. He missed the green with a wedge.
Yeah.
And made bogey.
Yeah.
Which kind of took a little, steam out of the sails, if you will. But right at about the same time, Ludwig was getting ready to get on a run.
Yeah. So 14, it was kind of an awkward number, and he just didn't make his best swing. And then wasn't able to get it up and down. But 14, 15, 16, he made 2 good pars on 15 and 16, almost made a 70-footer or whatever that was, 60-footer on 16. I don't know how that thing stayed out. But it wasn't like things were falling apart. I mean, he made 2 great swings on 15, put it on the green on 16, almost made the putt. 17 was a miracle of a par that he made.
Talk about that. I mean, first of all, I think, and that's what I was telling you, the ball went right. If it doesn't hit that gallery person, if it doesn't hit the person in the gallery, it probably gets to a spot where it's going to be pretty easy, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the day before, I think we hit the fairway once, hit it in the first cut left once, or right of the bunker once, which was in the gallery area, and he hit it the 12 feet, and that was on Saturday. So if you do get past the rope line, it's totally fine there. And I believe it. I think it hit someone, or it hit something.
I think it hit somebody maybe on the leg and kicked down. But it didn't get all the way to the bunker.
And it was, his feet were in the bunker, and the ball was about at his chest height, and he hacked it out about 15 yards, and it miraculously somehow made it to the first cut. And he was able to get that up and down to kind of keep us thinking we're in the golf tournament.
So as a coach, I know the types of things I say to a player when, in a big amount of adversity is hit. I mean, he didn't hit that bad a drive, but it kind of sailed right on him. And if it gets over to where you said it was going to get, he's got an easy wedge. Mm-hmm. It doesn't. He gets down there. The disappointment of seeing where the ball was had to be pretty deflating.
Yeah, it definitely was. I was pretty proud of him. He wasn't super pouty about it. He was very much like, okay, let's make this par. Let's figure out a way to get this wedge in the fairway where I'm going to have a shot at making a par. And I was super, super impressed by that. Something I know he's been working on is having a little bit more of that what's next mentality, instead of sort of thinking about, oh, that was such a bad swing, that was such a bad break. It was just, this is where my ball is, and I'm going to go hit this next shot. So fortunately I didn't have to do anything. I just kind of listened to him say what he was going to do with the next one, agreed with it, and went on from there.
What was the distance on that wedge?
On the third shot?
The third shot.
It was slope adjusted. I think it was 123 or something like that. So he hit a little chip gap wedge, landed long, and spun back, and then just sunk about a 10-footer, 8-footer on some afternoon POA, which always, it's like you're playing Plinko sometimes.
Yeah, it's amazing. And then hit, obviously, 18, hit a little right off the tee, really good layup. Talk about the wedge, the distance, what you were thinking, what he was thinking on that shot. Because you need a birdie, I think.
Yeah, we were tied. So we were tied with Ludwig at that point. Figured probably got to make a birdie to make him do something on 18. And It was 103 and wind. The wind is kind of hard to feel at Torrey on that last hole because you have all those grandstands up on the left. But we just knew it'd been at about 10:30 on the clock on that fairway, and probably might have been able to get a stock sandwich there at 103 with wind in off the left, but it's just you're really running the risk of how soft those greens were ripping it back. So he hit a little chip gap wedge, a little bit farther than we would have liked, but still did his job and put it inside the bowl at about 15 feet. So
actually hit a good putt, I thought. It felt like
hit a good putt, just turned a lot.
So you look at that and you had to wait, and obviously Ludwig made a great birdie on the final hole when he hit it to the back of the green and made a great 2-putt. So as disappointing as runner-up is, this had to feel pretty good. A lot of things are happening now. One, Maverick's world ranking, I think, is up to 14.
Correct. Yeah.
And he's obviously in a good position Ryder Cup wise. So, is he talking about that? Is he thinking about that? Or are you thinking about it?
We definitely are. I mean, he's definitely thought a little bit about the Ryder Cup, but at the end of the day, that's in, I don't know when that is, September. Mm-hmm. We're in February. We got a lot of golf to play before that. I think we're just a little bit more concerned of how are we going to go out and contend and win at Bay Hill. I think this week was great for him because pretty much it's going to make it really easy for him to be in all the signature events, so he can start setting his schedule for the rest of the year, which is, as a pro golfer, that's a huge relief when you know when and where you're going to be playing, because a lot of the guys, they don't know when and where they're going to be playing. So that's really, really been huge for him. And then I guess the other thing is he really feels like he doesn't have as much pressure now to perform on. I think the biggest thing for him, he doesn't feel like he has pressure to perform on certain golf courses that he's played well at in the past. We were talking a lot about that this week. He's never, I think he's had 115th at Torrey, and other than that, he never really finished better than like 30th. So he just didn't really look at this weekend as, I have to play well this week because this is my money making golf course. And he happened to. He did that at Sea Island too. Bay Hill, that's a place that hasn't had a ton of success on, but he feels like his game's different and he's ready to go compete there too.
Yeah, he's obviously his strokes gained approach has improved. You were talking to me about that earlier today. He's doing a great job with that, and being a great putter, and your strokes gained, so you're putting from a closer range for birdies.
Yeah, I think his putting did take a little bit of a hit when his approach game got so much better, because he was sinking a bunch of 8-footers, 6 to 8 footers for par, and then now all of a sudden he's looking at 12 footers for birdie. So there's a little bit less desperation when you're putting for birdie. There's something about putting for par. It's funny. It actually, statistically, I forget what the percentage is. Guys make 3% more from all distances when they're putting for par, which it really shouldn't be that way. Since
I don't hit any greens, I should be really good at putting for par.
You should be a great. I mean, I always told people my strokes gained 15 foot for par at Ridgewood was really, really high. It was Johnny would be in there Johnny Kiefer, my whole team, would be in there 9 feet for birdie, and I'd be 15 feet for par, so I'd sink it so that way he wouldn't beat me by 2. But his approach play has gotten significantly better. He's done a lot of work with Scott Hamilton, and then when you put good irons with good putter, it's really hard not to play well anywhere.
Yeah, you should be good, and I know you're excited. I know he's excited. Talk about one thing that's a little closer than a Ryder Cup, and that would be Augusta. But you've never probably been there. Have you been there?
I have once, sophomore year in high school.
When Maverick was in college playing as the...
Yeah, well, he's never played in the Masters. This is going to be his first Masters, but we were fortunate enough to have a trip out there. But this is going to be my first time at the Masters, his first time at the Masters. So we definitely have that on the horizon.
When are you going to play it first? Is he playing it soon?
Monday of Houston Open week, so that's middle or end of March. Mm-hmm. So that's the last tournament we're playing before the Masters.
Okay, perfect. Well, that's got to be exciting. So let me just talk about you as a caddy. because I never thought you'd be a caddy. But I also, when I realized you were going to be caddying for Maverick, I thought to myself, gosh, Maverick just hit the lottery, because you're going to be just the right guy for him, because you know him better than anybody probably that could ever caddy for him. So tell me, what's the most surprising thing to you? What's really been a surprise to you now that you've caddied since last, summer?
Just in general about caddying, or
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
okay,
in general.
I would say it's such a challenge being on the road as much as you are, because the fall our schedule is super fragmented, and then we did 2 straight to start the year, took a week off, and then just did 4 straight. So it's been 6 of 7, and my body's kind of said, all right, you need a rest. I'd say that bit was a grind. Matt would always tell me, oh, I'm tired, I need to go home. And I kind of said, oh, just grow up. And now I'm kind of seeing the other side of it, going, oh, okay, there's something to that.
So the travel's been a little bit surprising for you, a bit tougher than you thought. Because you're young and you're in good shape.
Yeah.
Can you imagine being an older guy that's not in such good shape?
I mean, it's been tough, but it's really, really fun. The travel's a pro and a con of the job for sure.
What are the most famous caddies you kind of become buddies with? Anybody that, I mean, I know you don't have time to become true buddies, but like, who are some of the caddies you've gotten to know well?
Paul Tesori,
who
was on Webb Simpson's bag for a long time. I was actually on the phone with him this morning. He's been super, super helpful.
He was a podcast guest of mine. Love the guy.
Oh, really?
He's great.
Yeah, him on the pod. I'll have to go listen to that one. Travis McAllister, Mavs old caddy, has also been super, super good to me. And then trying to think of some other caddies out there. I mean, there's a lot of legends out there, and some amazing nicknames too.
Yeah, it's funny, the legends that have hung on when they first started. These older guys, when they first started, caddying was not really a true profession.
Yeah,
it really is now. I mean, if you're not prepared, even your big brother might ask you to step aside if you don't do your job.
Yeah. I mean, Smiley, I don't know his last name. He's on Henrik Norlander's bag. This is his 49th season.
49th season.
It's just unbelievable to think about.
Yeah. But, I mean, the truth is, give a brief description of what you have to do to get prepared as a caddy. Let's say some of these courses you've never seen before, probably. So how are you preparing?
So there's a lot of, now we're lucky, there's a lot of data on the golf courses. We'll get data packets for the stats from what areas are good, what areas are not. But still, you definitely have to do a little bit of recon yourself to figure out what areas of the golf course are firmer, what areas have super thick rough. Sometimes golf courses will have very minor changes year to year. Like, for example, hole 7 at Spyglass used to have this nasty rough right of the green on this par 5, and now it's shaved down so you can actually bail it out there. There's just a couple things you want to keep your eye open for. Stepping off green changes on Bermuda greens, so we know when we're going into approach shots what side of the green change the pins on. Just little stuff like that.
What? How often do you read putts from Mav?
It depends on the week. In Phoenix and last week, I read every putt for him. Some weeks like on Pass Palm, he's putted great there historically. I don't see those greens well, so I'll just go step off on the other side of the green and pretend I'm doing something when I'm not. And he'll just make putts, so it's kind of fun that way. It depends week to week, but the last 2 weeks we've been talking through him a lot more, and a lot of the times we're seeing the same stuff, but it's just nice for him to get a little confirmation. And also, I think it helps to talk through it, because he's really talking about his spot and honing in on his spots that he's going to hit.
Yeah, it's really wonderful, I'm sure, to caddy for a guy that has a great putting stroke.
Yeah.
And I'm sure because you grew up together, you probably see reading putts similar. How often do you talk him off of a shot? I mean, like, just Maverick, no, we're not doing that. Or can you come up with any specific examples?
Yeah, there are times here and there. I mean, it's a fine line between you going, well, I want to see how good you are, versus this is really stupid. Like, we're on 7 at Spyglass, and the one I was just talking about, and he's right in the pine bark, and there's a tree he's got to cut it around. It's a par 5, and we have like 3 front, I think, and there's a pond short left. He goes, well, I see this little cut 5-iron around the tree, and I'm just standing there, and I'm going,
all you can see is the ball going in the water, right?
And I just go, okay. And he hits this beautiful cut that just lands and goes on the front edge of the green. He's putting for eagle. And I said, okay, well, that was kind of a moment where I'm glad I shut my mouth. And then another one, we're at Torrey on Saturday. He's got 252 or something to the front edge over that pond, and
on
18, and the wind's kind of coming in off the left, and you don't feel as much of it there as that's really up there because of the stands and some of those trees. And he's going, yeah, well, I think I just hit the strong flight at 3 and it should be enough. And then just this little gust of wind just hit our faces. I said, man, if you get that gust while your ball's in the air, no matter how good you hit it, that's in the water.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, okay, I'll hit a 6-iron.
Yeah.
Then he laid up.
But you're a 24-year-old guy who hasn't, are you 25?
23.
Good gosh, you're young. Okay, you're a 23-year-old guy who doesn't have a ton of experience in that arena, but you had the wherewithal, the mind to go, gosh, all it takes is a little gust, and we're in that water making bogey or double. It's not going to be that was pretty good. A lot of heartache has happened on that hole through the years.
Oh yeah. And sometimes with those guys, they can hit every shot. That doesn't mean they should hit every shot.
Yeah, for sure.
Just because you can hit the 4-iron straight up to the moon, to a pin that's 3 from the right on water, doesn't mean you should take it right at the pin.
Are you good for Maverick and his emotional control?
I think I am. I feel like he's gracious enough to kind of give me a mic into his life where I can, if he is struggling with that and he's kind of gone off track, I can say something to him, and he's given me that leash, which I'm grateful for. And I think that really helps our relationship as player caddy.
Yeah. It occurred to me when you first mentioned how this came about, this caddy relationship, it had to feel kind of good that Maverick, it's a huge, huge responsibility to caddy for a guy who's trying to become world class or is world class or wants to be number one in the world or wants to do any of these things. That had to feel like pretty special that your brother trusted you enough to do that.
It did. Yeah. I mean, I guess I was probably pretty surprised that he was cool with me just doing the whole fall instead of saying, hey, let's do 1 or 2 events and then we'll go ahead. And he put me right into the playoffs, which was super, super big moment for him. And so I was probably pretty surprised that he was okay with that instead of just having me come do, a US Open qualifier with him or something like that instead.
Any memories looking back on when you were growing up with Maverick? And you guys were hockey players, and people don't realize that. I mean, Maverick was as much a hockey player as he was a golfer until he was about 17. Is it neat to look back, or kind of nice to look back and think that he dreamed of playing this PGA Tour? He dreamed of being in the playoffs. He dreamed of playing in majors. And now you're walking along those same fairways with him. Kind of cool.
Yeah, it's really, really special. And in a weird way, he almost didn't have as much of a dream of being a professional golfer, and I did. Mm-hmm. I always, I think Mav always thought he always said he wanted to be the best golfer he could be senior year of college, so that way he could win a national championship and then go on with a real job. And I always wanted to be on the PGA Tour and win on the PGA Tour. And, here I am instead caddying, and in a weird way, I always dreamed of winning, and winning on the bag with him was way more fun than I ever dreamed winning myself would have been. So it was, in a weird way, it was a blessing.
So vicarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
Well, Scout, I just want you to know this is really fun for all of us Baylor golfers to watch. We were pulling really, really hard for Maverick this past Sunday in the Genesis, and we've enjoyed watching you grow and mature, and the fact that you've helped Maverick in a big way is really cool, and we just want to wish you the best of luck going forward, and hopefully you're hoisting that trophy at Augusta.
That would be pretty fun. Gotta hit some good golf shots to get there, but that's what we're trying to do.
Great approach play and great putting, that can win at Augusta, right?
It's done before.
Okay.
So.
Well, best of luck with that. Tell Matt we're all pulling for him, and congratulations on another great week.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on again, Coach.
All right, you betcha. Take care.